Hi guys, sitting in much the same position as I was for the last video we did about SGs, but this time the man who was behind the camera in that video has come in front of the camera to join me. This is Connor Fliss.
Hello.
And we're going to start off with just a little bit of playing and then get in some chat about who he is and what he does and stuff, okay? So let's go. It's great to be with you. It's great to be talking about this.
Lovely to be here.
Let's talk first about the guitars and then we'll talk about you. So this is the SG Junior that is currently on loan to Connor and he's brought it over for the day.
Yeah.
And this is my 55 Les Paul Junior. So we've got two planks with a single P90.
Exactly.
For a bit of comparison. I'd say, judging from that, obviously we're going through different amps. Connor's going through my regular Fender Deluxe reissue. I'm going through a little Ignator. Rebel 30, I think it is. Rebel 30.
Yeah.
And so on through the drive channel. So it's trying to keep volume low. But I would say that, if anything, this was slightly mellower and slightly sweeter and that's slightly shoutier.
It's got a little bit more kind of
bite.
Bark, yeah.
Yeah,
like a little bit.
bark.
Yeah, it's so well. What this guitar is, I mean, as you said, the last video I was sitting in the director's chair just there, making sure the cameras were still rolling while you and Ramon were.
It's always a movable feast.
But yeah, you occasionally heard me interject. I don't know if those will get edited out or not, but yeah. So what this guitar is, I've brought it over for the day. It's 62 Les Paul Junior, which is currently owned by someone that we know who's very kindly lent it to me for a little bit and has given his blessing for it to be here today. But before him, it was owned by my dad. He imported it in, I guess it would have been early 2000s as a birthday present to himself.
Yeah.
I think you tipped him off on it, didn't you?
I think it was on my advice. Yeah.
So he imported it. Obviously, this is a long time ago. I barely remember it. I was a tadpole at that point. But so he had it for about probably 8 or 9 years, I guess. Oh yeah, thank you. Probably 8 or 9 years, and then sold it. But obviously we still know where it is. I've got it at the moment, and it's just a wonderful guitar. Really,
it is, isn't it? It's
fantastic.
like it's one of the things I think is, if you ever discover a guitar, it might belong to a friend of yours or somebody you know, and you get to play it, and you think, oh, this is really good. I'd really like to own this, and maybe you can't afford it at the time, or maybe the person who owns it doesn't want to sell it to you. It's still, I think it's really important to keep tabs on these things because there are so many average guitars out there. That if you actually find one that you really, really like, just keep in touch with the owner, and if you make it clear to them that you're not looking to get a snip, get a bargain, you're just looking to keep your hands on that, if you like, keep it in the family.
Pretty much,
yeah. And hopefully we can do that with this.
Well, I mean, that's something that at some point I would love to be able to do if it ever appears.
I mean, it's already close to us because we both know the owner.
Exactly.
I dare say, you've borrowed it off him. I dare say if I wanted to, I probably could.
Yeah.
So in that sense, it's kind of within touch already,
within the circle. Yeah.
But I think I'm towards the end of my playing life. You've got your whole playing life ahead of you, and we're going to come on and talk about that. But just as a rule of thumb, when you find a nice guitar, never let it out of your sight.
Yeah. this is a really
a
particularly lovely guitar. I mean, I'm not I've never historically been a big sort of Les Paul Junior single P90 kind of guy, because a lot of the time on paper my preference is always for special type stuff, so 2 P90s, because whenever I'm playing a 2 pickup guitar, I find that I live on the middle position quite a lot.
Okay.
I really like the middle position, particularly between 2 P90s. It's a lovely sound.
Okay.
But this has really blown me away. Just the amount that you can get out of one pickup, 1 P90, is just fantastic.
I'm really stoked about the fact. I mean, you know, we joked in the last video that, you know, with Ramon and me and Connor, we actually do span 3 generations. Okay, we've got a guy in his 20s, Ramon's in his 40s, I'm in my 60s, so there's 40 years between us. Yeah. Probably almost exactly 40 years.
Yeah, probably.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'm really stoked that you like and can play and seek to play the same kind of stuff on that as I would. And I'm just, it keeps the flame alive for me.
Yeah.
Because I mean, you've come up through a completely different, you know, kind of growth path. Let's talk about that, because I mean, you know, I've known you since you were, as you say, a blighter, and you know, how you started playing, and then there was that moment when you just lifted off. And when you started tapping and shredding and all the rest of it, and over a period of literally 3 months, maybe not much more, just everything went vertical.
Well, it's very kind of you to say. I'm not really a blues player very much at all. I mean, I have a massive appreciation for it, and I like to play it every now and then. I seek to be better at it. But I'm more of a rock guitarist. I started off, as Bob kind of hinted at, I started off as a metal guitarist, really, and I've kind of gone back there now. My earliest inspirations were people like, actually no, my earliest was Gary Moore, really. But then, and my dad always played as well, so I saw, you know, that was another source of influence.
And your dad's taste is slightly more towards American and towards pop, so there was quite a lot of kind of mainstreamy rock stuff going on.
And also like quite a lot of yacht rock, actually, stuff like you know, Christopher Cross and Steely Dan and all that.
Is that called yacht rock?
Yeah. That's
Whoa.
right. Oh, are you not familiar with the term? Oh my God! Wow,
it's a great name.
It's brilliant, isn't it? Yeah. Basically, I think the rule of thumb is if it was from California in the 70s and you can imagine it being played on a yacht, then yeah, you're basically there. Sort of Michael McDonald.
I like it this vibe a lot. I fancied it this.
It's fantastic, yeah.
How have I got by in my life without knowing about this?
I think the term's come about in the last sort of 10, 15 years, something like that, but people have adopted it.
Okay.
It's quite, so he was into a lot of that stuff, I am as well, but I started off being influenced by Gary Moore, and then a lot more metal guitarists like Dimebag Darrell from Pantera was an early one, and Alexi from Children of Bodom, who sadly died about a year ago. That was very, very sad news. He was a particular early inspiration of mine. I still can't bloody play a thing he ever did. Oh, we've got a doorbell.
We've got a doorbell. I'll just go and answer it, and we'll edit this out.
Maybe. Noodle on this for a bit, I guess.
I'll just chop it.
All good?
It's fine.
Yeah.
The reason you use two cameras is that you've always got a chopper. That's right. Okay. Right, so you were on Dimebag.
Yeah, Dimebag, Alexi from Children of Bodom, a bunch of others, but yeah, I mean,
Well, there was one thing we should give a special mention.
So, I know who you're going to say.
Yeah, so I heard this thing, probably on XFM, late at night, driving back from rehearsal one day.
Yes.
About they were plugging a band called Rise to Remain, who are a British metal band. And the solo on this track was off the bloody scale. It was really fantastic.
Yeah.
Compositionally, executionally, it was like, whoa!
Yeah.
Stop the car for a minute and listen to this.
Yeah.
So, you know, as soon as I got home, I got in touch with Connor, who was just on that vertical wall.
I must have been 15 or so.
And you were beginning to start attacking this incredibly adventurous two-handed stuff.
Yeah.
You know, and covering a lot of ground. And I put you onto it. And didn't you actually trace him and study with him?
Yes. So what that was, so the band, Rise to Remain, they were a metal band from the UK. They had one album. Well, they had an EP, which is what you would have heard the track from. Then an album. Then they split up. But the guitarist, a guy called Ben Tovey, who is just, he was just the most unbelievable guitarist.
Absolutely.
I found out who he was, watched that solo, spent a long time trying to break it down and learn it, because it was, the solo was on the track called Bridges Will Burn.
Mm-hmm.
And I eventually did have it down by ear, slowed it down and did all that fancy shit. I didn't get it exactly note perfect.
You got it pretty close.
I got it close enough.
I mean, you were about 16 at this point.
Close enough to do a video.
It was, for an old dog like me, it was pretty scary.
Yeah, it was. I got it close enough to do a video and it not be completely embarrassing.
Yeah.
I think that was basically it.
But and by the way, you do quite a lot of videos of laying yourself over tracks of all your old favourites.
Yeah, I do still.
So what we might do is, are they all in one kind of place?
So they're on
We'll overlay something on the video.
Sure. Yeah, no, they're the best places to find videos of me playing. I do have my YouTube channel, which is called Pluckin' A, and I also have my Instagram, which is cflissy. That's my handle. But yeah, the thing that I did with that solo was I learned it, did a video of it, and I sent it to Ben because they actually put something on their Facebook page about Ben offering lessons. And had his email on there, so I just, even though I wasn't strictly asking for lessons.
Hi, this is me. How
exactly. I emailed.
Brilliant. What a great calling card.
And he got back to me eventually, and he seemed very impressed by it. Gave me a long, it was a long email, lots of stuff, like saying well done for figuring that out, all that sort of stuff, and then said he went into a little bit of detail about how he wrote it and stuff like that, and then he said at the end, by the way, I'm doing lessons if that's something that interests you. So I did ended up having lessons with him for about 2 years. He was over in Finchley. And
do you know what he's up to now?
Well, very sadly, the band split up, and I don't think he plays guitar at all anymore.
Oh, that's a crime. I mean,
it's a shame.
God, I'll try and find a link and put a link on this video.
It's well worth checking.
To the right
because
it's a heroic piece of guitar soloing for a guy of that
the
caliber to not be playing is very sad.
So here's the thing: when he recorded the solo that you would have heard, which was on the original EP, he would have been, I think, 19.
Oh,
I know, it makes you sick, doesn't it? But yeah, he's a few years older than me. I think he's sort of in his early 30s, something like that.
Okay.
But yeah, the band split up. I think it's not for me to say. Obviously, I knew him reasonably well back then. I haven't had much contact with him over the last few years, so it's not my place to speculate. I think he just felt quite badly burned by the experience of it, and just ended up sort of losing his interest in it.
Well,
and
talking of that, I mean, guys, I've known Connor since he was a young child. Okay,
yeah.
So we did know each other pretty well for a long time.
Yeah.
It's actually rather interesting that he's one of the few ones of my friends' kids who's actually become a friend of mine in their own right, rather than somebody else's son or daughter.
Yeah.
But so I kind of know your trajectory. And I know that you had one experience that's probably best not talked about in detail. But you had one quite recent experience where things suddenly rather lifted off for you, and literally just in the middle of takeoff. I mean, it was just in the middle of full thrust takeoff. Suddenly everything turned to crap, and I was really worried that would dent your enthusiasm, confidence.
I know the situation you're talking about. A few people possibly watching this might also know the situation I'm talking about. I'm not going to go into detail on it. It's best for me not to.
Yeah.
That was something that I had to deal with. It was very difficult, but thankfully I've managed to sort of come back from that.
I'm very glad you bounced back.
So now I'm fortunate enough to say that my day job is in the musical instrument industry. I don't want to be drawn too much on.
Quite close to guitars and amplifiers.
Yes,
a good place to hang out.
Definitely, absolutely, and I adore it. I'm so thrilled to be doing it, but I shouldn't go into detail on it.
Well, no, but I mean, I'm happy to say. I mean, I don't think this is too secret. I'm happy to say that there are two people in particular who Connor asked to sort of coach him before his interviews.
Yes.
One is the singer in the band I used to be in, and he guests with sometimes, and one is me. And it seems that we're not all completely off it, that we actually managed to help. You got the gig, and that's fantastic.
Yeah.
And so you do that. And in the meantime, what do you do musically?
Yeah, so musically, my main two things that I do are I play in a metal band called Last Existence, very growly, down-tuned metal stuff.
6, 7, 8 strings?
Well, actually, so what it is...
More guitars coming!
What it is, so the there are two guitarists. We don't have live bass. The bass is on tracks, and live, the lower end of the guitar stuff is taken care of by my bandmate James, who is a fantastic guitarist, and he plays a baritone, a Warmoth that he built from parts with a single bare knuckle humbucker, and it's a 28-inch scale, I think I'm right in saying.
And he tunes it to
Drop
B?
E.
Drop E.
Drop E. So yeah, that's
right. So an octave down.
Almost an octave
Whoa!
down. Yeah. So
Growl.
It's a fantastic. I mean, it's it's the kind of thing that takes some adjusting to, but it's really. You can get some amazing stuff from it, and I just love listening to him play. He's an amazing player, but he's in drop E, so nearly an octave down, and then I'm in drop E, an octave above that. So I'm tuning up a tone and then dropping the top string. So effectively, drop D a tone higher.
Yeah, okay.
And that's what I do. I play all the sort of. There's a lot of obviously low tune, chuggy riffs and stuff. There's also a lot of clean guitar, a lot of sort of ambient type.
Good. Okay. And you handle those duties.
Yeah, and lead lines as well.
Okay.
So for that, I'm using at the minute I'm using my Ibanez Iceman, which I adore. I mean, we were planning on at some point doing.
We're probably going to do a little Iceman show at one point. Yeah,
because the Iceman's a very interesting guitar. It's a very interesting story, and I have one. My dad has one as well, an old one.
Beautiful, clean vintage. Yeah,
and
really
so that's one of my favourite guitars. Really, I would love to.
Now in that band, this is another running joke between the two of us. That you've also got an orc, haven't you?
An orc, yes.
Right. So those of you that have seen The Lord of the Rings, which is pretty much everybody, isn't it?
Actually, I haven't.
Right.
To be honest. I'm aware of. I've never been interested in it, but I know what you mean.
Well, anyway, the orcs are the sort of zombie, mindless army of the baddie, right? Yeah. And they've got this voice, which is exactly what almost all the modern heavy metal singers sound like to me. Hence my joke about, he says he's in a heavy metal band. I say, have you got an orc? Rather like somebody would say, have you got a poodle or have you got a parrot?
A pet orc.
Yeah, exactly. But have you got an orc? To which the answer is yes, they've got an orc.
They have got an orc.
And it's one of the things, we've talked about.
His name's Joe, and he's a lovely chap. The
music in this kind of style of music is often exquisite, whether it's dense, complicated, rhythmic, chuggy, or sweet, melodic, ambient. It's really, really good. It's top, cutting edge. But I just can't understand. Rather like I have difficulty with a lot of rap and R&B and grime and so on, I have a bit of a difficulty with orcs as well, because I think you've got this exquisite music going on, and then above it, I just can't stomach it. But it's become a house joke.
It's I mean it's. I definitely understand the. It's an acquired taste. It's difficult to get into.
And I'm showing my age.
No, there are plenty of people my age who don't like it either. So don't worry about that. It's I think it's definitely an acquired taste. It's one that I acquired quite early on because I was just so into the music. And all the guitar stuff that was going on around it that I just acclimatised to it. Now I can appreciate it. I quite like it.
Travel back in time and ask my mum and dad what they thought of Black Sabbath, and it wouldn't be pretty, So what's the difference? Now, in the meantime, what's your other squeeze?
Yes. Yeah. Well, my other squeeze is a Toto tribute band.
Why do anything difficult when you can do that?
Well, I mean,
it's Toto or Steely Dan is pretty much as high as you want to climb in terms of tributes, isn't it?
I mean, honestly, Toto the music is just masterful. I absolutely love it.
It is beautiful, isn't it?
Yeah, having the job of playing Steve Lukather is A, it's a mammoth task, and B, it's an absolute honour and a privilege because he's just. I mean, Steve Lukather is one of my favourite guitarists. He's an absolute master. He's just astonishingly good. But it means I have to play and also sing because we try and split everything as and be as authentic as possible. So the stuff that Luke sings, I have to try and sing as well. My range is not quite there yet, but it'll get there. I do a reasonable amount of the lead vocals.
And what do you play for that gig?
Well, so for that gig, I use my Kemper because I've got all the sounds set up on there, and it gives you all the kind of glassy, clean sounds and all the processed overdrive kind of stuff. Which is very much what Luke was into in the 80s with all the rap gear and
absolutely
all that sort of stuff.
And you're probably just out of camera to Connor's
the
right.
fridge.
You're sitting in front of my rack, the fridge.
Yeah, puts mine to shame.
Which is, my attempt at the same 80s insanity.
Well, I mean, I think you've probably gone over and above, to be honest. I mean, it's a lot more than...
Well, it did take 25 years to get rid of the hum.
Well, there we go. But, so, no, guitar-wise, guitar-wise it has varied a little bit, because I've used my James Tyler that I have.
That's a nice guitar.
It's a gorgeous guitar, yeah. I've also used a Sterling by Music Man with John Petrucci signature, which is, it's got the right headstock.
Yeah.
It's a pretty good guitar for that as well. Right. There have been a few. I haven't quite honed in on a perfect guitar for that.
And tell me, how long a set do you play?
At the minute, we've got up to about an hour.
Okay.
We're working.
That's a lot of work.
It is. Yeah, it's been 18 months, 2 years in the making. So trying to get everything exactly right. You know. But it's got there. We've got about an hour. We've done some nice slots and stuff. We've played over in the Netherlands a few times. We've done some. We played Henley Rewind Festival this year.
Right. Any more in prospect at the moment, or is it?
I think we have. I can't remember exactly. I don't think we've got anything in the calendar for the rest of this year, but we've got stuff. Talked about for next year.
All right, good.
So so that's something that you can also find. I mean, I'll do the self-promotion thing. Both of those bands, Last Existence and So Toto Tribute, you can follow on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube.
We'll put a link up. We'll put a link up. And so you glanced over something we ought to probably talk about, at the risk of opening a can of worms. I've owned a Kemper and an Axe FX and some Line 6 stuff for 20 years. I've been into all of
early
it.
adopter of all of this.
Quite an early adopter. I used to gig with my Line 6 combo amp.
Yeah, the Axis. I remember it.
And I use it for much the reasons that you've described.
Yeah.
And I've been fascinated because Connor's invested a lot of time and energy in his Kemper, and you've got the floorboard as well, which really opens it up.
Yeah, it's a lifesaver for that.
But what's so interesting is over the long course of this conversation, our conversation has kind of drifted. Because I've said to Connor, look, you're getting a better sounds out of your Kemper than I am, so help me with that, because mine still sounds, however hard I try, I still breathe a sigh of relief when I go back to my real amps. Even the humble ones. Not the flashy stuff, the humble ones. What's interesting is last time you and I spoke, you'd begun to drift slightly in my direction. Insofar as you certainly talk about it and its strengths, incredible flexibility, sound engineers love it.
Yes,
right?
they do.
You're completely controllable volume, fantastic cleans, walk-in stereo cleans, amazing pillow-like grunge gunk. But the place where I live, which is basically the guitar and the amp, just edge on overdrive, the whole touch thing, my frustration is I can't get that out of a Kemper. And what's interesting is that when you want that, you tend to go back to your deluxe reissue and your pretty tasty little floorboard with all your pedals on it, and you go analog, suggesting to me that if you like, the world is beginning to sort itself out into, quite rightly, different tools for different jobs.
So
I wouldn't do a blues gig with a Kemper.
No, I wouldn't either. The thing, the fundamental is, I think you and I generally, we kind of look for different things. And the stuff that I have ended up using the Kemper for, it's perfect for, like, the So Toto stuff, all the lush ambient clean stuff, and also for Last Existence, it works perfectly for that as well. We're all on digital modelling. In fact, the other James, the other guitarist, uses a HX Stomp, tiny little Line 6 thing.
Right.
Amazing. He uses that with a power amp, like a little pedal this big, and it's huge sound.
Which means that he can get on the tube or the bus and go to a gig. Amazing. Exactly. Amazing.
And I can just about do that with the Kemper. It's a bit of a ball ache, but I can do it. The Kemper is great for all of that stuff. It's it's incredibly flexible, incredibly convenient. You can sculpt like big sounds with lots and lots of effects. If you want a sound that's got chorus delay, like some kind of
parallel tracks,
compression,
I don't know, delay ducking under the chorus, all kinds of
loads of stuff. You can get that, and you can dial it up and hit it with. You can get that with one button press rather than having to tap dance. But sometimes, if it's like the kind of sound that you talk about with the sort of the low gain, edge of overdrive kind of thing, yeah, I mean, that's where the Kemper kind of struggles, and
Yeah.
I've tried to get those sounds out of it. I've had some amount of success with it, but it is difficult.
Yeah.
It's not quite what it wants to do.
Well, I'll tell you one story. You probably know this. About a year ago, my band went into a studio in between the lockdowns to record 5 songs. They're just blues standards from our current set because we needed a calling card, and we had a kind offer of some pretty steeply discounted studio time. So we went into a studio for 3 days. Now, my objective at that was really, I'm not the musical director of the band, but I'm part-time musical director of the band because I've been playing blues longer than most. So my objective was to actually make sure the whole band were very comfortable, in particular making sure that the singer was as confident as possible. And so I actually neglected my own musical contributions slightly, but I knew the material anyway.
Yeah.
The studio engineer, when I phoned him in advance and said, look, just about laying down guitar tracks, how do we do it? And he said, well, I don't know if you know them, but I've got a Kemper here. And I said, well, great, I've got one here too. So why don't I just pull a few sounds out of my Kemper and I'll just literally email them to you. You can jack them into your Kemper and I can walk in the studio and have it. So I sent him my sounds, which were in part informed by your help.
Yeah.
Sent him over. We set up and did some takes and all the rest of it. And we had a couple of days of really productive recording. But when I look back on it, and I listen to the guitar sounds that I generated, and this is having taken some trouble beforehand with your input. The studio engineer knows his way around a Kemper really well too. It's the thing I'm least happy about. I'm very happy about the playing. I'm very happy about the band ensemble playing. Happy about the singer. Excellent. Really think the guitar playing, well, the guitar sound is just a bit meh. Now I know that's partly me and it's all in the fingers, but I wouldn't do that again. Next time I would actually say, even if it means half a day of me going in and being a nightmare playing too loud in a separate room, after the rest of the band's finished for the overdubs, I'm going in with an amp and a drive pedal or two. Yeah,
that's a fair position. I think that there are plenty of people who have got who've managed to get those sounds out of a Kemper, but I can't get it to quite do what I want in terms of because I love that sound, that sort of the sound that great blues players talk about with the touch sensitivity and being able to I don't want to say that the Kemper can't do that, because I think it can, and I think there's a lot more hidden depth to it than people often explore. But
and also as the technology and the processing gets better and quicker, it's narrowing in.
Yes.
But it hasn't quite got there.
Yeah, exactly. I think that's probably the hardest thing to do.
Yeah, but you've met him as well. I think Marcus Cliff.
I don't know if I have met him.
You've met him on Facebook probably.
Possibly.
So he's been in one of these videos before with Anonymous.
Right. Yeah.
He's a good chum. He's out there, playing with Paul Jones and the Manfreds and stuff like that. And he's got a fantastic musical CV. He's got a great studio of his own in South London, and he's a great fan of the Kemper. And he's sent me a bunch of the profiles that he's edited, and he knows what he's doing in the studio. And he's I know he plays bass most of the time, but he's an astonishing guitarist, right? And a great jazzer too. And he sent me his packs. He's also sent me, probably bootlegged, some Kemper packs that he's bought. Right, I think you've sent me some of yours. You've maybe sent me a few packs you've bought. So I've got quite a library of these things. And again, kind of getting warm.
Yeah.
And one day it's going to be hot, and then we'll all be able to go to a gig with a little box in our top pocket, and it'll be a sublime nirvana. But in the meantime, not there yet.
I know what you mean. And there's it's the sound of it's the moving air thing as well. It's being in a room with something that's doing. Get a sound approximating that from a Kemper, but that feels a little bit different.
It's somehow somewhere under the ribs for me.
Yeah.
But just seeing you play like that, a little shout out to Chris Buck, who does a lot of videos online. Lovely player, lovely player, and there was a little bit of that going on in some of the top notes there.
God. I don't know if I...
no,
very kind of you.
Respecting
what, that stuff?
And on his own admission, whereas most of us live in the minor pentatonic, he tends to live in the major more of the time.
Yeah, I'm with him on that.
Yeah, it's nice.
That's one thing.
Nice.
That's one thing I can relate to
Yeah.
with him. Yeah, I mean, I do kind of a lot of the time when when doing those the sort of blues licks, I always find myself going back to the major afterwards rather than like ending on a.
Yeah.
I want to go like that sort of stuff. That's where my brain lives really a lot of the time.
Well, there you go.
It's just B minor.
Well, so I reckon we should probably play out now.
Yeah.
I reckon I'm going to give you something really, really hideous to try and play over.
God.
Okay. So if I just play an E major minor ninth,
for
right? So like no, Eric Clapton.
Wait.
Eric Clapton made money out of this when he did the soundtrack to Edge of Darkness.
That chord at the very beginning, it's an E minor major 9.
That's right. So yeah, I mean, and it's also, of course, it's the Bond chord.
I thought the Bond chord was a I thought the Bond chord was a -6 or something. No, that's the Eppress file.
That's
chord.
it. So you pick a 60s spice.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
right.
It's always got some weird.
And it's got
shit
some
in it.
dark jazz chord in it. So I thought what we do is just literally, I'm just going to hold this down.
Oh, God.
Right, and just muck around in a kind of E minor but with a ninth and a bit of, and see if you can flip from kind of minor Lydian into minor pentatonic.
Fuck knows.
Yeah, no, Easy Gunstreet does all these scales. We're going to put him to the test, just for 30 seconds to play us out.
I'll try. See how we go.
It's been great.
It's been fantastic.
We've been doing this, looking to do this for a long time, and I'm glad we got Connor on the show. It's probably not the last time. We might well come back with the Iceman.
Hopefully. I'd love to.
For now, let's just play us out. So,
Thanks for having me, guys. That's just normal E minor bullshit that I would do anyway. Stevie Ray Vaughan ending.
Thank you and good night.
Thank you.